So we are the Hallmarkies podcast, and I'm Rachel, and Amber's here.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, and we are so excited in honor of Marrying Mr. Darcy. We have decided to talk all about our favorite author, Jane Austen, and her masterwork, Pride and Prejudice, and the many, many adaptations that have come over the years. So you're a big Jane Austen fan, Amber?
I am indeed, yes.
Yeah, what is it that you like about Jane Austen, and in particular, Pride and Prejudice?
The characters, really.
Mm-hmm.
If Jane Austen did one thing well, and she did more than one thing well, but if she did one thing well, it would be crafting interesting characters.
Yes. I have maybe a bit of an unorthodox view on Jane Austen because I actually don't think that her books are about romance. People always kind of is these, they're just about people getting married or whatever. And I think that is actually not true. Her books have almost no romantic dialogue of any kind between. Emma's really the only one that has actual romantic dialogue between Mr. Knightley and Emma. Whereas like in Pride and Prejudice, Darcy basically, it just says he said what was appropriate for a man desperately in love. Like, it doesn't even give you the romantic dialogue. Her books are about characters being faced with choices, and you get to go on the journey as these characters have to make these difficult choices. And her characters are really, really bold for her day. I don't know if we quite appreciate now, how bold it is for somebody like Lizzie to refuse somebody, like even Mr. Collins to refuse him was very bold. And, so you, and certainly somebody like Darcy was insane to refuse in that day and age. And so all of her characters learn lessons, and they grow as characters. So they're very dynamic, and I think that it just happened to be that at that time the major decision that women had to make was who they were going to marry. That was the biggest thing, and so I don't know. I think that they're not just fluffy romance books at all.
No, they're not. But I wouldn't go so far as to say they're not about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think what Jane Austen was also saying, obviously it was a commentary on the time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of I think they're mostly just societal satires, more than that. And I think one of the things that she was also saying is that just getting married for security is not necessarily a good move.
Yeah, because almost every married couple in her books are complete disasters. There's a few exceptions, like the Gardners and the Westons, and a few ones that are stable, but most of them are really not happy marriages, not very good. And so, I think she's saying a lot about these characters that have to, make these tough choices, and that they're not going to do what the society tells them to do.
Especially the dialogue that she does have, and not necessarily even her prose is hilarious. She is so funny, Jane Austen, as a writer. She's clever, she's witty, and I think a lot of the times people think oh, Jane Austen, I love Jane Austen, when they really mean oh my gosh, I love Colin Firth, which is fine, but he's also not Jane Austen.
Right, exactly. All right, great. Well, so there's been a lot of different Pride and Prejudice versions over the years, and Pride. I think that Pride and Prejudice and Taming of the Shrew are the foundation for almost any romantic comedy that has come out in the last, since forever. Almost all are either, you have these opposites, but they're really in love kind of a story that you see in so many romances, which is trying to kind of ape Pride and Prejudice. Or you have the gimmick, there's a bet or a article that has to be written or a thing, and that's very Taming of the Shrew. There's this bet, and but I think what so many things that try to do what Pride and Prejudice does, what they get wrong is they forget that, yes, Darcy and Lizzie might not like each other, but we know that they're good people. And we see throughout the novel that that many people love Darcy. the Bingleys love Darcy. His sister loves Darcy. We know he's a good person. And we know that a lot of people love Lizzie, her dad, her sister, and so what happens, I think, with the bad romantic comedies that try to pull off this formula is they just make them hateful. And so you don't care about them. You don't want them to get together because they're just awful people. And they forget that, like, really making these characters, I think, likable, so you're rooting for them, so that you know that if they could just, like, communicate effectively, they would get together because they're good people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I mean, generally, because I mean, really, in like theater and fiction, there are really 7 basic plots. So, I mean, you could technically say, like, oh, well, actually, this is Jane Austen's version of Much Ado About Nothing, or like whatever. I mean, one could argue that.
Yeah.
But Jane Austen, the reason why it's such a staple and why we compare it to so many things is because Jane Austen did so well. And the main thing is she formed even her, like, one-dimensional seemingly characters, like Lizzie's mom, Mrs. Bennet, who all she cares about is getting her kids married, whatever. She even still has more depth than just being, like, a flibberty-gibbet monster lady. She's I mean, like, the only reason why she cares so strongly about getting her daughters married off is because if she does not get her daughters married off, they will just, like, be starving homeless monsters. Like, they couldn't get jobs. That's not really allowed. There's no opportunities for them. So getting them married, especially considering that they didn't have any sons, so their house is going to be entailed away, is the only way for her to get security for her daughters.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Let's start with the most recent one first, and some of these we'll spend more time on than others. I'm going to start with the most recent film, which is Unleashing Mr Darcy, and this was our Hallmark film starring Ryan Peavy and Cindy Bugsby, and so for me, I thought this was cute. They have Cindy as playing Elizabeth. She's a teacher who ends up getting fired unfairly, and she gets a job as basically like a dog walker, dog carer for these dogs that are shown in dog shows. And one of the judges of the dog show is Donovan Darcy, who played by Ryan Peavy, who they don't get along at first, and then Frances Fisher plays his aunt, the Lady Catherine character, and but they get thrown into different situations together, and you have your typical sort of Pride and Prejudice arc that happens, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the script was pretty sharp, and I think Cindy Busby is super charming, and I thought they had good chemistry together. And the dogs are cute, and I don't know, just enjoyed it. So, Amber, what about you?
Listeners of the podcast will know it is not my fave. And I just kind of felt like Lizzie wasn't likable to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why. I can't put my finger on why you don't like someone. Sometimes you just don't like people. And that's not saying that I don't like Cindy Busby, because I love Cindy Busby, but I just didn't really feel like Lizzie was someone that I wanted to root for. I felt like she was a little bit, I don't know, irrational for me. And I really care about, like, why is a character doing something? I have to, like, believe their motivations. Anyway, so I didn't love it. Also, I am afraid of dogs, and little dogs are scarier to me than big dogs. And this movie is all about, like, little dogs. So I think that might also be part of the problem.
Maybe.
Not gonna lie.
I'm not, in real life, I do actually struggle with animals in general. But on movies, I'm okay with that.
I mean, I don't think that dog is gonna come out of the screen and eat me. I'm not, like, irrationally afraid of them. I don't, like, flinch when a dog comes on the screen, but, like, I don't know.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think a lot of it is just those intangibles that are, do you think people have chemistry? I think that they did a pretty good job with the script, and overall, neither of us has seen Marrying Mr Darcy yet at this recording, so we'll see how they bounce off of that. But yeah, so anyway, we differ on that one. Where did it land in your ranking?
It was number 8 in my ranking.
See, this is the funny thing, is it's actually number 8 in my ranking also.
See?
But I don't have any of these that I like hate, I guess. Like they're all,
I mean, there are a couple that I kind of hate.
Right. So next up we have the movie Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. This came out in 2016 and was based on the mashup book that was popular. These books that take classic novels and intertwine monsters and zombies and things like that into them. I've never read the book. Have you read the book?
I did read the book, and it was like fun, but also sort of ridiculous because it literally takes the text from Pride and Prejudice, and then every once in a while it's like, it is a truth universally acknowledged that all single men must be in want of a wife, and also zombies exist. Like it's really funny, but also I'm not sure why it was like insanely popular.
Yeah, I guess maybe something just sort of different. I don't know. I never read the books, but this movie, it stars Lily James as Lizzie, and then it also has Jack Houston, Bella Heathcote, Matt Smith is in it as Mr. Collins, and Lena Headey is in it. It has a pretty good cast, and I really liked it. I was surprised because I went into this being like, oh, this is a disgrace to the name of Pride and Prejudice. I had a very bad attitude about it going into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went into it and I was like, this was actually fun for me. I thought that it was kind of fun to see like our favorite characters kicking butt and fighting and I don't know. I liked it. It's not perfect. Some of the action is not shot that well. And I think that these zombie rules are sort of, I mean, I'm no expert on zombie stuff. I don't watch most zombie stuff, but like they can like control it and like hide it for like long periods, which is like weird. I've never seen a zombie thing where that can happen. But I didn't really care. I just found it kind of fun. And I thought that Matt Smith was hilarious. I thought he did a great job as Mr. Collins.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. I was surprised that it got such bad reviews because I thought it was pretty good.
It's just a really high concept show.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think those are hard to connect with a wider audience. Also, there were parts of it that I didn't really connect with me, but it is fun.
Yeah. And it had a cool sort of visual style, I thought, to it. And the way that they did the, I don't know, just all the costuming was just sort of fun, I thought.
The costuming was really fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, it's, I didn't think that the Darcy was that great.
No.
I think they were trying to go off to the Matthew McFadden type that's more like quiet and shy sort of type, but he was a little bland. But
Lily James is awesome.
Yeah, she's great in it. And
I found myself watching this movie and thinking, I just wish that they were just doing it a straight Pride and Prejudice with Lily James as Lizzie Bennet and Matthew Smith as just Mr. Collins. Yeah. And that's the thing with that. I mean, I shouldn't just want this movie to just be regular. I should be like, yes, and zombies. And that movie didn't really make me feel that way. I read a review somewhere that said like not enough Pride and Prejudice or not enough zombies, and I agree with that. They didn't do a good balance of what they needed to accomplish, but it's still fun.
Yeah, I mean, going out of it, I thought this movie's like the perfect date movie because it's got like the zombie stuff for the guys and like the Pride and Prejudice stuff for the girls, and like it's just perfect. But yeah, I guess it just didn't have enough of either of them for it to really be.
Yeah, as the perfect Venn diagram intersection of zombies and Pride and Prejudice, you would think this movie was meant for me, but it didn't deliver enough on either score.
Fair enough.
For me.
Where do you have it ranked?
That being said, I do have it ranked 7th.
I have it 7th too. That's so. Oh no, I have it 6. I have it 6.
Okay. 6.
Yeah. So I have it at 6. And but I was surprised to see it on like people's worst of the year list and stuff. Like I I don't know. I thought at least stylistically, and they were trying something new. I didn't think it deserved hate, outright hate. I'll just say that at least. But anyway, everyone eats their own, I guess. So then we have the 12 Men of Christmas, which came out in 2009. And this is a very loose, I didn't even realize it was a sort of a loose take on Pride and Prejudice until you mentioned it, and I'd seen it like many times. But anyway, so it's Kristen Chenoweth. This was for Lifetime, and she's this PR person, and she gets cheated on by her boyfriend and gets kind of blacklisted by all the people in New York City for PR. And so she ends up taking this job in Montana, the Glacier National Park, and she ends up getting all of these service and rescue guys to do this calendar. And it's pretty fun. It's pretty charming. I like Josh Hopkins as the, I guess, Darcy type. He's super charming. They have really good chemistry. And it's a fun, I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure for me. But I enjoy it. What do you think about this one?
I don't love this movie. I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it, and then I feel like on the rewatch I don't think it improves, and I don't think it might get worse on a rewatch. But it is fun. I love Kristen Chenoweth. I think she's a delight. The thing about this movie is I didn't really care about her romance with the like fake Darcy guy or her romance with the fake Wickham guy, but I really enjoyed the sub B plot of her like Jane and Bingley characters. So that's for me is the best part of the movie. But once again, if I like the subplot better than the main storyline, it's not that great.
Yeah, I love Kristen Chenoweth, and I even love the Descendants movie because I love her as Maleficent. I don't know, I just really, really enjoy her, and I actually really like that main plot. So I have it ranked at number 7.
I have this ranked at number 9.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Then we go to 2005, and we have Pride and Prejudice, directed by Joe Wright, starring Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden. And this movie is, a lot of people in the Austenite fandom don't like this movie. And because I think what they did is they have Keira Knightley as the star. And typically in Pride and Prejudice, it's the Darcy character that goes through the most change and the most, Elizabeth does have her sort of moment of clarity after reading the letter. But in this one, I think because Keira Knightley was the star, I feel like she's the one that goes through most of the change. And whereas, and Darcy really isn't that much of a jerk. He's just kind of shy and just sort of quiet, it's a different take, I think, on the character. And Joe Wright makes stunning films, like cinematography, all the things. I like how it's a little bit earthier, it's a little bit dirtier than other adaptations. There's not like a stuffed costume piece kind of air to it, which I appreciate. And I think that they do actually have pretty good chemistry, and I like it. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I really like this adaptation. I think that it doesn't focus as much on the social satire, obviously, but you're not going to be able to squeeze that kind of stuff into a 90-minute, 2-hour adaptation. So what it really does is I think it hits the high points really well. I love the characterization of Mr. Bingley in this movie, where he's kind of like a bumbling, insecure, but like sweet man, which I really believe is, Mr. Bingley. I really actually feel like what they did is get a lot of the characters right. So I can forgive a lot if the characters are true to who I believe the characters are. So like, where this is different from, say, like an Anne with an E, where it doesn't quite follow everything exactly. I still feel like in their bones, the characters are who they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree, though, this is sort of a softer version of Darcy than we see in other versions?
You know,
Quiet and shy.
I kind of feel that way about Mr. Darcy. Like in other adaptations, sure, he's like a confident, rich guy, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But I feel like in the books, he's not necessarily that way. And I feel like Colin Firth's characterization of him is not really that way.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. To me, this was even more so than Colin Firth version, even more.
Yeah, it is more. I feel like all of the characters are a little bit softer. Yeah. Part of the reason why I really love this is Donald Sutherland's character isn't like, I hate my wife. Not really. He's just like teases his wife. And Mrs. Bennet is not like a horrible harpy. She is just what I imagine, like a frazzled, worried mother who's trying to get her daughters married.
Yeah.
Who's a little bit silly, but I don't interpret Mr. Bennet's frustrations with the mom is like, oh, if only I could get a divorce from her. I just think it's like, haha, tease my wife, who is silly.
Yeah.
I mean, when she says my nerves, and he says, my nerves have been my constant companion for years or whatever. Yeah. He's not saying it like, oh, I just wish I was dead. I think he's just like, I mean, it's you, right? I don't know. Yeah. I appreciate the characterization of even the parents' relationship a lot in this movie.
Yeah, I agree with you there too. I think that all of the roles are just sort of softer and a little more, even like I said, even the cinematography and the production design and everything is kind of a little bit earthier and a little bit softer and a little bit than like some of these more stuffy period pieces type of films. And anyway, so yeah, it's
also I just want to say too, I love the score in this movie. It's incredible. I was just about to say
that. Yeah, beautiful score. And Keira Knightley was nominated for Academy Award for this movie, so she did a good job.
Was she?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Yeah, she was. Where do you have the 2005 ranked?
Oh, I have it ranked at number 2.
Yeah, same with me. Next, we have Pride and Prejudice. This is our Bollywood meets Hollywood adaptation. This is a Bollywood version of Pride and Prejudice. And they have your typical Bollywood songs. And it's really fun. This is like a kind of a Western version of a Bollywood movie. Like my friends who are super into that are like, it doesn't count. But I'm like, it counts. I don't know, but it's a lot of fun. It has all the major beats of your typical Pride and Prejudice story, and the lady who plays Lizzie is stunningly beautiful, I think. And I don't know, what do you think of this one?
I really love this movie. I first watched this movie, I guess, in 2004, at a sleepover at my best friend's house, and it was life-changing. We like danced around all the songs. It was amazing. And I love the director, Garinda Chadha. She did Bend It Like Beckham and Angus Songs and Perfect Snogging, and she's done a few other movies like It's a Wonderful Afterlife and The Viceroy's House, which I don't know if you've seen, but
I have seen The Viceroy's House. Yeah.
Oh, look at you. She's awesome. I wish she would make more fun rom-com-y movies. Honestly, if she could make a Bollywood version of every Jane Austen book, I would be the happiest person alive.
Yeah.
So I love the songs in this. It doesn't stay necessarily like, it's not really super true to the books, but what it is true is it is a society. It does more of the social satire that Jane Austen would have appreciated.
Yeah. It's more of a comedy than like your 2005 Pride and Prejudice. Like that's not a comedy, but this is like a comedy.
Yeah, and I feel like one of the things that I really like about it is, I mean, I don't know what it's really like in India. I have never been, but I feel like it's interesting seeing, you know, how they play up the like India versus the like English relationship for part of the conflict between the two people. So I really enjoy it. I think it's so wonderful. I love the guy who is the Wickham. He's Elijah on the original, so yay. I just really enjoy a lot about this movie, and I love it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Where do you have it ranked?
It's number 4 for me.
Yeah, it's number 5 for me, so we're pretty close. Next, we have a version that probably a lot of our fans have never heard of. It is Pride and Prejudice, a latter-day comedy. This is from 2003, and this is a local, I guess, movie that was made for a Mormon audience. And it stars Cam Heskin and Orlando Seal. And yeah, what did you think about this one?
Okay, so I just want to start off and say, I went to the premiere of this movie. I have pictures of me with the guy who plays Mr. Bingley when we went to the premiere. I have a copy of the Pink Bible that they talk about in this movie because they like released a book along with the movie. I love this movie for sentimental reasons. And also, it is, I know it's like over the top and like hyperbole of what like Mormon culture is, but it actually pretty much nails it. There is a scene where the Mr. Collins character is talking at the pulpit, and she fantasizes about getting up and just chucking her hymn book at his head. And I know it's not appropriate to say, but there have been definitely times when I have wanted to be like, oh my gosh, you're the worst. Why are you talking? And just like, could you even imagine just like someone who is up at the pulpit talking about something that should not be discussed at the pulpit and just chucking a hymn book at their head and making them sit down, and everyone in the audience is like, yes. It was amazing.
Yeah. People might not understand that that in our faith, we're both Latter-day Saints, we're both Mormons, and in our faith, we don't have any paid clergy. So anybody is just called upon from the audience to speak, usually in advance, but to speak. So, you know, that has mostly good results, but every once in a while, it's not the greatest. But you know, that's our tradition for our faith.
Yeah, and I would say that also one of the unique things about this is in our faith, we have things called singles wards, which is where people who are not married can choose to go to a singles ward. And even the singles ward is an entirely different animal from just like a family ward where, you know, like just a typical church would be. The singles wards are different. And it's not necessarily like everyone in there during church is like, man, I'm going to marry that girl. But there are people who are like that. And it makes for an interesting life.
Yeah, it does. That's a good way to put it. I currently go to a mid-singles ward, so it's like the older version. You have this ranked?
I actually have this ranked at number 3.
Interesting. I have it at number 9. I haven't seen it in years, though, so.
Because I think one of the things that I really like about it is because it really is just like the Pride and Prejudice, and just like how I feel the original Jane Austen books are satires of the culture and the society. And I think it brilliantly satires Mormon culture, especially in Utah.
Fair enough. I just remember that I didn't think the acting was very good, and some of the humor didn't quite work for me.
I definitely could have done without the Carmen Rasmussen musical number.
It's been probably 10 years since I've seen this, so take that with a huge grain of salt. But anyway, that's where I have it. Have it ranked. So anyway, next we have Bridget Jones's Diary, based on the novel by Helen Fielding, and that's a adaptation kind of Pride and Prejudice, where you have Bridget, played by Renee Zellweger, who is gets this diary, decides to write for a year in her life, and she talks about her struggles at work, which I'm a big fan of, and her boss, which is played by Hugh Grant, and then her childhood friend, played by Colin Firth, who she meets at this Christmas party wearing this jumper, with a reindeer on it. And her parents obviously really want her to get married. Jim Broadbent and Gemma Jones are her parents. They're so fun. Yeah, and she has a great group of friends who I love when she makes food for Darcy, and she the string falls,
the blue soup,
and it ends up being blue, and he's like it's an underused food color. So funny. And I think that she has a lot of insecurities, which I can certainly relate to, as far as her job and her weight and her there's things. And I think the script is really sharp and funny, and yeah, I don't know, I just really enjoy it. And I think Renee Zellweger, who also got nominated for an Oscar for this role, I think she's great and very charismatic, and I hated the sequel. It was awful. But I thought that the third movie, Bridget Jones's Baby, was actually pretty funny. And I enjoyed that. I particularly liked in the third movie, any scene with her at the newsroom was, I thought, hilarious. So yeah, I really enjoy Bridget Jones's Diary. It's probably one of my more favorite rom-coms.
Yeah, I think it's pretty funny. Colin Firth is so incredible in this movie. Yeah. I mean, I honestly think that I like his version of Darcy in this movie more than I like his Darcy in the A&E Pride and Prejudice. Yeah. And I know that is going to get some looks from me for saying that, but he's so wonderful towards the end of this movie, in the back half. And it's not necessarily anything against him or against his character, Mr. Darcy, in that, but he's much, even just based on like the fact that it's a modern retelling versus the old retelling, he's able to just like show his affection more. Yeah. And like say his feelings. So I really enjoy that. The fight scene between Colin Firth and Hugh Grant is honestly one of my favorite things in the entire world. I would watch that movie just for that fight scene. Yeah. I think it's probably my number 3 ranked fight scene of all time. Yeah. I mean, and the other 2 are with Jason Statham and like actual fight scenes that are just awesome. So, I mean, that is high praise because I am, as you know, a huge fan of fight scenes. Yeah. I don't know if you know.
And it's a really good fight scene. I completely agree. It's very, it's funny, even though it's like played for laughs. Like it's not a slapstick scene, but it's just like, I don't know. It's just still funny.
It's a very real fight because neither of them are good at it.
Yeah, I think that's right. That's a way to describe it. Yeah, that's what makes it funny. It's just really charming, and she's just a really likable character. And I don't know. I just think it's great. And so, where do you have this one ranked?
I have this ranked at number 5 on my list.
And we should add, this is rated R. We don't normally cover rated R movies on our thing, but it's pretty mild R, I think.
It does have a lot of language, and there is a flashback of people going at it like bunnies, right? Using the terms that they say in the show. So yeah, it does have a lot of pervasive language. I mean, there's the friend who they even have like an F word counter for.
Right. Yeah. So
if that stuff bothers you, then this is not your kind of movie.
Exactly. So where do you have this ranked?
I have this ranked at number 5.
Yeah. So I have it at 3.
So, yeah. We're pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close. Next we have the Colin Firth version of Pride and Prejudice. This was in 1995. And this was actually a like miniseries for that came over on A&E, BBC made, I believe. It starred Jennifer Ehle as Lizzie and Colin Firth in one of the more iconic roles on television, really. I think you could make an argument for it. I mean, this was such an iconic performance as Darcy, and what do you think? I mean, this basically is very true to the book. This is it. This is Pride and Prejudice. And I think it's interesting that when they redid all the Jane Austens in like 2008, 2009, the one they didn't touch is Pride and Prejudice, because how do you do it better than this as far as like a faithful retelling? It's pretty hard, I think.
Yeah, they do a lot of really faithful adaptations. There are some extra scenes for Mr. Darcy that are obviously not in the book because it's not really told from his perspective. Yeah. But I'm not going to begrudge them putting more Colin Firth on my screen.
Especially in
and
swimming.
It's just, honestly, I don't know. It's not perfect because there's no perfect movie except for possibly the first Pirates of the Caribbean. But we'll get into that later. But it's so wonderful. And I think part of the reason is why it was able to be so great is they gave it 6 hours to breathe and to explore the characterizations and to have, fun, but also take things seriously and give it the gravitas that it needed. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, agreed. In all ways. I mean, you've got all the great English sets, houses, whatever. You have the great swimming scene. I mean, that's a great scene.
Honestly, Colin Firth diving into the lake and then walking out all not in the lake is honestly, I think, probably the swooniest thing that in the history of all women have swooned over. But for my money, the favorite part of Colin Firth in this movie is when he's watching her rescue his sister play the piano, and he just does that smile. Delicious.
This movie does the whole British stare so well.
Yeah.
It kind of introduced me to it for
Well, and the thing that makes that work so well is there's not a lot that he can say
right
in that time, but man, could he look it.
That's a very good way to describe it. They have pretty good chemistry. Not all the casting is perfect. I think her mother is a little over the top.
That's where this movie does have some flaws. I think is it doesn't really give depth of character to all of the characters. I think it makes them a little flat.
Yeah.
Even Lydia doesn't really have any depth. And I think Olivia is a very nuanced, interesting character.
Well, and she looks too old. I think the actress was too old for Lydia. That's one thing I like in 2005 is she looks like a teenager pretty much, I think.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But it's fantastic. And there's really not a lot. So where do you have it ranked?
Obviously, it's ranked number 1.
Yeah, obviously. Agreed. Number 1, it's great. So then we have the next one. It's probably one most people haven't heard of. It's the BBC version from 1980. And this, it's actually, I think it's fine, but it just doesn't hold up as far as production. It feels very dated. But I don't know. There's not I don't think there's some horrible thing that they do. It just feels like something made for TV in 1980 is the problem.
Yeah, I don't like it. Mm-hmm. It's really boring to me. I don't feel like any of the acting is that great. I don't feel like the director made really good choices. I don't like it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I just think it just feels very dated. So it's one you could probably skip.
I feel like a lot of the costumes, though, are still in use in the BBC closet vault today. So that's kind of fun.
That's probably true. Yeah.
That's one of actually my favorite things about all of these period piece movies is to see is that the same dress from...
Well, it is interesting to see just how different the same sort of time period, how different depending on the costume designer can make it look. Obviously, some of these aren't in the same time period, but the ones that are, they look sometimes quite different, which is interesting to me. But yeah, anyway, it's my number 10.
Yeah, obviously, it's my number 10.
Yeah,
I mean, there's not an 11th movie, but it's basically my number 11.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure any other adaptation of Pride and Prejudice will be higher than this one, just because of it just pales so in comparison to something so similar, which is the first one. So it's just always going to get bumped lower.
Right. The final one we have is the Pride and Prejudice with Sir Laurence Olivier and Greer Garson from 1940. And this movie, I mean, he's a great Darcy. You can't beat him as Darcy. And I think it's fine. It's just very, very strays off of the book, big time.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
have a lot of differences. But I like Greer Garson. I like Olivier. I mean, it's Darcy's just dream casting. So, and I haven't seen this one in a long time. So, I don't know. What do you think about this older version?
Yeah, it's so bananas. It's set in not World War One. It's set during the Civil War. Yeah. It's so crazy. I mean, it's like all the names are the same and their relationships are the same. But like the characters aren't really even close. Lady Catherine de Bourgh being the matchmaker lady is just bananas. It's so funny. The costumes in this movie, however, incredible.
Yeah.
Everybody looks so amazing in this movie, although it is just so bananas, not true to the story.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a fun ride if you just take it for a separate thing entirely.
Yeah. That's what I agree. And the acting is really great. And that's my memory of it as well, is that it's just, if you just take it as its own thing, it's a lot of fun. But it's very, very strays from the book. So where do you have this ranked?
This is ranked as my number 6.
Oh, okay. I have it number 4.
Yeah.
In my ranking. So there we go. That is all of them. That's all the ones.
That's it. We did it.
Yeah, there you go. Look at us.
I mean, and obviously there have been some other adaptations, including the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, but we chose these 10 film adaptations.
Yes. So let us know what your rankings are, and let's go over our various lists. So mine, I have the Colin Firth version at number 1. I have 2005 with Keira Knightley at 2. I have Bridget Jones at 3. I have the 1940s at 4. Pride and Prejudice at 5. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies at 6. 12 Minute Christmas at 7. Unleashing Mr Darcy at 8. Pride and Prejudice Latter-day Tale at 9. And the BBC Pride and Prejudice at 10. What about you?
Yes. I have the Colin Firth Jennifer Ellie 95 at 1. The Matthew McFadden Keira Knightley from 2005 at 2. Pride and Prejudice A Latter-day Tale 2003 version at number 3. Then Bride and Prejudice Bridget Jones's Diary at 4 and 5. At number 6, I have the Laurence Olivier from 1940. At number 7, I have Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Number 8, I have Unleashing Mr Darcy. Number 9, I have The 12 Men of Christmas. And at number 10 is the one from 1980.
Okay, great. Good. Well, there are lists, and let us know what your lists are. Let us know what are your favorite Pride and Prejudice adaptations, and maybe any other Jane Austen that you want to talk about. Talk with us about it. That would be really fun. In the comment section or on Twitter, we would love to hear what you think. And thanks so much. And this week we'll have our Good Witch recap on tomorrow, so make sure to check that out. We had our interview with Casey Manderson on Monday, so make sure that you listen to that. He's so sweet and so great. And then this coming weekend on Hallmark Channel is The Perfect Bride 2 Wedding Bells. So you'll want to look forward to that, and a new Haley Dean mystery. So lots of fun stuff going on Hallmark channels, and of course another episode of The Good Witch. And Amber, where can people find you?
As always, I'm at Amber Brainwaves on Twitter, and that's it.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on iTunes and on YouTube. And I'd really appreciate it if you follow that. And make sure you're following us on all our social media at Hallmarkies Pod on iTunes and on YouTube and on Twitter, everywhere else that you can follow us. Follow us, please. And we try to post every single day on Instagram. And so thanks so much, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye, everybody.